HGG Radio, Higher Ground Gospel Radio Station. We are on again. My name is Bonitto Grange, your relationship and life coach. And again, we have Michelle, lady behind the wig, that we had in here in a recent program. Also, Chaplain Ingrid Gentles, which she's a host on my program every now and again. We're going to continue on. The topic is why you should not get married. It's very interesting. Why you should not get married. Somebody might be saying, why didn't you tell me why I should get married? Because I'm you're messing with my mind, right? Yeah, so why you should not get married. So those of you that find it interesting, you can subscribe. Please subscribe to the HGG Radio. Share with your friends, share with your family. It could help save a marriage down the road. So in our recent program, we talked about partnership. Actually, when we get married, we become one. We're supposed to become one. The two become one. That's from the biblical perspective. So we're in partnership with one another. So it's no big you and little me, right? And Michelle, we can continue on what you mentioned about why you should not get married. If you get married to save someone, tell me a little. You might have some.
Yeah. Well, I was just talking about, if you're getting married to save somebody, someone who's like been living life and just kind of haphazardly, or maybe, for example, they lived off of their parents. They never had their own home or own car or paid their bills or anything like that. And they realize that, well, if I get with this person over here, they have their whole life together and they're going to help save me and kind of settle me down. And while I do look at marriage, just like you spoke on the other show about partnerships. And so there are times when you may be good at you may have a certain set of skills. I have a certain set of skills. And when we bring them together, then we're able to work and build together. But what I'm talking about is more of like, you already knew from the jump that you don't really care too much about this person. You're like, I can grow to love the person. And you can, but then you're more looking at, okay, but she has a house. She's got 2 cars. Yeah, she may have 3 kids, but, she already has all this stuff going along. So if I just jump in there, we get married. And what I see sometimes, it's, we talked before too about the imbalance of power at times too, the power dynamics. And so what I'm saying is sometimes I will look at some women and I'm like, I've seen it in different ways. Like I've seen women who are in ministry that are high. God is really mightily using them. They're traveling around the world, ministering to people and preaching and things like that. And then you find out you see their partner and you're like, these two, that doesn't make sense. Like it doesn't like connect. And it's a lot of times people take advantage of their loneliness or take advantage of the situation, put all this attention on them, get together, and then make a mess of their lives. Because really all they really wanted to do was just kind of latch on to what you already had. They had no intention to bring anything to the relationship or build or add. They don't want to work. I know someone who told me the other day, she said her husband told her that the Lord said that he was supposed to quit his job with no plans of getting any other job, and he was stayed home and played video games.
Wow.
Yeah, that didn't work too well.
Wow.
So yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That man or a woman thinking, well, I get married and this guy is like great. He's got all of the things. He's got the executive position. He has all the things that we say is a good man. And they marry them. But then again, looking at not just power dynamics, but just even the future, like, yeah, they may be stable. They may have all the good things. But where are they spiritually? Like, you're not looking at the whole person. You're just looking at a situation. Where are they spiritually? What are their future goals? You want to bring children. Some people just want to look at marriage and be like, I want that. They don't really look at the whole thing and don't really understand the work, physical work, mental work, emotional work that comes with it.
Yes. We plan, you've heard the statement before, we plan for the day, not for the relationship. We put so much
into the wedding.
Yeah, right. We put so much energy into that one day, but what about the future or where we're going to be at, right? So mentioned about.
It's funny because I just wanted, just what Michelle was sharing, I actually know of a real life situation that didn't end well. And without calling names, and so friends of ours in the past,
Mm.
and two couple, woman, female, Caucasian, male, uh, black, Jamaican, and met this wonderful woman who's doing well financially, have her own home, everything was just, she was great, great job. And so, they got together, and the male really had nothing to bring into the relationship.
Mm.
Not only did he not have anything to bring into the relationship in terms of finances or even a job, employment, that sort of thing, um, he also had a lot of baggages.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And
Red flag, right?
and she was aware, and then there were children involved as well, right? Because he was now divorced and with children. She was aware of the whole situation, and still went ahead. And I remember one of her comment was, "He's going to be my pet project." I remember that
Really?
comment.
Is
I,
that right?
I remember that comment so clearly.
Is that right? That's
Yes.
different.
Yeah, I
Okay.
remember that comment. And I am telling you, her desire to see him be successful
Mhm.
and to become, see the potential in him,
Right.
everything in her believed that she could save him.
Wow.
And she put everything behind him.
That's tiring, isn't it?
Lost her home, lost a lot of things.
Wow.
He is now not in Canada, he's sent back home.
Okay, one of those.
And she's still assisting him
Is
from
that
here.
wow, wow.
And
Wow.
That's tough.
and
Tough.
it's a story that some people, like you said, you really want to save this person, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of us could look at her and say, "Are you out of your mind?
Yeah.
Right.
What
Right.
are you doing?" But
Mm.
there's something that she just will not give up, and to her own detriment.
So what was the push though for in a situation like that? There had to be a drive for, or is it even the first time? I usually look on situations like this. So if you're doing this, there's a place where it comes from. So my question would be: is this the first time she was actually trying to save someone?
First time.
Is this a pattern that first
First
time?
time. Very first time.
Man, so that's and look what it took from when you're trying to save someone. This thought came to me. I want you can continue in a minute here.
Yeah.
Is it's taken away so much from the individual, and they're not realizing that it's like there's an emptiness there as time goes on. That there's a place now that needs to be filled. So rather than you trying to fill that need for that individual, they're emptying your emotional bank account, for lack
Yeah.
of better words.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like how long do you go on for that? So and like you said, lost your house and whatever else besides all that, and still
A lot
supported.
of things. A lot of things. And there was also a situation where abuse came into the picture,
Okay.
right? And it just makes me wonder. I'm not here to judge because I don't understand the mindset.
Right.
But I'm of the mindset that if something is taking you down,
That far, that much.
that to me is a red flag for you to exit,
Yeah.
Yes.
Wake up. Yeah.
regardless of your good nature or how much potential you clearly see in someone that someone else may not.
Hmm.
The red flag for me, or should be for anyone, is it's great that you are in a position to help someone to become a better person and to push them
Right.
to be successful.
Hmm.
But if that means you are going to be taken down in the process,
being
I believe
depleted,
that you need to revisit that.
being depleted of self. That's a thought that came to me, being depleted of self. For those that are listening here, our program is why you should not get married, folks, whether you're male or female, why you should not get married. You listen to HGG Radio. For those also that's listening, you can also go on my website, www.tlcbonitogrange, that's BONITTOGRANGE.com. And if you go under personal coaching, there's a red flag assessment that's actually on there that you can do on your own. And that will give you an idea why you should not get married, why you should hold off a little bit, or there's some questions there that you're asking, that you're being asked that you've never probably been asked before, right? And actually, one of them interesting is, are you trying to help this guy? Are you trying to save this guy?
Hey, wow.
Exactly. So it's that is one of the, I think that's one of the huge red flags here, trying to save somebody. And as you mentioned that, Ingrid, the question that came to me is, what is that taken from you? What are you being depleted of, right? And what are you going to be left with at the end of the day? And as you can see, it really didn't serve her well. So for those that are listening, something to take note on that. Are you saving this individual, or are you contributing to their life? Do you have equal values and goals and so forth, right?
Mhm.
What about independence? We're going to touch on independence. Individual, when you're single, you're so independent. Should a person get married if they have this independent mindset? Where do we go? Where do we go? What's your thoughts on that? Something to validate independence.
When you go into a relationship with an independent mindset, a marriage, let me just, not just a relationship, but a marriage with an independent mindset, I believe that mindset can be detrimental, right? Because if you don't recognize that it's not just you anymore, but there's someone else, right? And and let me just qualify this by saying you can be one with someone, a spouse. You can be one working together, but still you're still two separate people.
That's right.
With different aspirations and different,
Right.
goals and so forth. Doesn't mean you're not working together. So there could be a certain level of independence, right? As long as you're not independent in the marriage overall, right? Because you two people come into a marriage and the oneness is there. Oneness doesn't mean you lose your identity as a person.
That is so true.
Right? Something would be seriously wrong if that happened. You shouldn't be losing your identity in your marriage or in your relationship. So we need to recognize that oneness doesn't mean that you don't exist as a person, right? But when I think of here, I'm going to just be transparent right now with myself, because I tend to be someone that has that mindset of independent mindset while back. Oh yeah, let's just call it what it is, right? It is. I had that mindset, you know. However, I think we need to understand that while you have that mindset, you still have to recognize that even though you are a person in the marriage, you still have to, that independence is not separate from overall marriage. So you still have to function as a whole, but recognize that you're two distinctive people.
Earlier you mentioned about losing your identity.
Yes.
Just like that individual you mentioned earlier also that was trying to save.
Right.
Trying to save someone's, save another person. Yeah. How much of your identity are you still keeping, or how much are you actually losing, right? So independence, Michelle, what do you think that shows up more for the men or for the women when it comes to being so independent and considering a relationship?
It's hard for, well, it's hard for me to say it's more one or
The other? Okay.
the other. While Ingrid was speaking, I was like, wow, she's all in my head because this is me. Um, I
Okay.
actually, and I know different people have different thoughts about this, but I, in the last year, went back to go see a therapist because I was just feeling so overwhelmed with life. I just feel so overwhelmed. So for me, the reason why I sought out therapy though was because I am saved, sanctified. I see God. I pray. I have a close relationship with Christ, but I'm
Hmm.
still feeling overwhelmed.
Hmm.
And I'm just like, Lord, what am I doing wrong? So I said, well, in order for you, I've always been taught, in order to get things to change, can't keep doing the same things over and over again, expecting the same result. So I
Hmm.
said, well, I'm going to seek out a God fearing therapist because I want you to come to me from the perspective of the Word of God. I don't want you to just tell me what you were taught in school and all that stuff because I already know all that stuff. So, anyways, one of the things that I learned through therapy last year was the fact that I definitely had that mindset of she was teaching me that there's a difference between there was I was trying to find it in my notes and I couldn't put my finger on it, but it was like independence, interdependence, and dependent. And whatever the case may be, I definitely, even though I may not have gone into the marriage for him to save me or for me to save him, I
Hmm.
definitely was very much into saving everybody in my family. So
Hmm.
I was trying to save my husband, make sure he's straight. I'm saving
Hmm.
his feelings. I'm saving his
Hmm.
ego. I'm saving all of
Hmm.
this stuff. And then, like you said, there's a loss in identity. I'm
Yeah.
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
trying to make sure that everybody else is straight. I'm trying to save
Okay.
my kids from loss, from heartaches and pain and stuff. And really, what you're doing, I learned, is that you end up really hurting the people in the long run. Because if you're the person, let's say I'm saving you from feeling pain and loss or whatever, but the next person that you deal with, let's say at work, who wants to be rude and mean and nasty, they're gonna
Mhm.
just be mean and they're not, I could have talked to you in a way and shared and expressed myself and it would not have hurt you, but I'm just shutting up altogether. But that's not reality. Like when you go out in the real world, people are going to be mean to you or people are going to say things to people. So why do you always feel like you always have to shut up and keep all your feelings in because you don't want to
Mhm.
hurt your husband's feelings, you don't want to hurt your kids' feelings? That's what I'm trying to say there. So we really talked a lot about the different relationships, and like I said, independence, interdependence, which one is the right way to live life. And
Hmm.
I really did, when I analyzed stuff, like I'm really was, instead of holding certain people in my family accountable for stuff, I was
Hmm.
really like, I'm ready to just jump in and like,
Hmm.
I'll take care of it, I'll handle it. Then you wonder why you're overwhelmed, Michelle. Like,
Right.
back up, let them take, let them take
Right.
responsibilities, let them feel accountable for stuff. If they didn't do something, hold them to the table, things like that. But we've got to be very careful too. It's very easy. I even just read an article earlier today about Michelle Obama, and she was talking about going to get therapy for this time in her life where
Okay.
she is now she's an empty nester
Hmm.
and her life
Mhm.
is changing. So she's
Yeah.
61 and things are shifting. How do I deal? Like people think it's her and her husband are breaking up. She's like, that's not an issue. We're good. I'm just
Mhm.
trying to figure out how do
Navigate
I
that.
deal with the next seasons in life. And
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
of times, because she said she was always doing for everybody else, she was looking out to make sure her girls were okay. Okay, now I got to make sure he's okay. And then he was the president, making sure the world was going to be okay. Like what I'm doing is going to affect the whole world, so I
Hmm.
have to be very mindful of these things. And now she wants to learn about, what about me? What is it that I want? How do I handle my day to day? What can I do? And so I do believe that we have to be careful of that. But I do know some people, and it's kind of cute, but it's kind of, again, remember we talked about that paradigm shift about things are changing. What I say is kind of cute is, how you'll hear about an old person, a couple has been married for 60 years and the husband dies or the wife dies, and then about a month or two later the other spouse dies.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's kind
Yeah.
of cute in a way because it's like, oh my God, they were so in love with each other. But at
Right.
the same time, to be so tied and wrapped up into each other that you cannot function
Yeah.
without the other person.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not how, I don't really believe in my spirit. I could be wrong. Maybe y'all think something differently, but that's how we're supposed to be. Anyone that we're supposed to be so wrapped up and tied up in is going to be God. Like that's
Right.
who I
Yeah.
need to be. So then when we get our feelings hurt, when the
Mhm.
human being fails us, we're looking all shocked. But you were so wrapped up and had all of your eggs in that one basket. And that's the other thing too. You have to allow and have grace for your spouse. They should be allowed to make mistakes, and it doesn't mean the whole marriage is over. When I say mistakes, let's just say general, because it could depend on what that mistake is. But I'm just saying, like, they don't always do things the way that you want them to do it, or you're not in control of everything, and now we can't be together no more because whatever. So it's like it's such a balancing act, and marriage is so complex. But that's why I again came up with the topic of why you should not get married. Again, not to deter people from getting married, but to look at it from all the aspects. Don't just look at I'm madly in love and I just want this person. I want to be with them all the
Mm.
time. What about when you don't want to be with them? How do you handle that?
Yeah. That could come up, right? What is
Right? What?
You know,
Go ahead.
sorry, I gotta get in on with what Michelle is saying, because it's just such an important conversation. What she's actually sharing and saying is because you know, that what she's describing is mostly happens to women, the wife,
Mhm.
right? And we give so much. We give so much
Yes, you
because
do.
we want to make sure everyone is okay. We are
Everybody's
the nurturers,
Mhm.
right? You know, men are not created that way to be nurturers. They can be, but we are nurturers just by our existence, right?
Mhm. That's
And
right.
so I just believe that if we're not careful, because we love and care for our children and our family and our husband and our extended family, and you hear especially for those who are believers, it's a woman's responsibility to keep the house together, to keep her marriage together.
Mhm.
Um, it's both parties' responsibility to keep the marriage together. FYI, right? However, let me just go back to us being nurturers. Because we are nurturers, we tend to go the extra mile. We
Yes.
do the extra mile. We go the extra mile, and we somewhere along the line we forget about ourselves. Once
But
the children are grown and they're successful, they're married, and they're gone off, to start their life, then you start to realize, what are you now left with? Now you have to find yourself
mhm.
again. You got to
But
now.
Ingrid, we don't mind you ladies going the extra mile, but
I
carry on.
know.
Carry on.
Of course you don't.
I love it. I love it. Okay, but carry on. Don't let me
Yeah,
miss.
but I think Michelle said something that was very important, because it's something I've said in the past, and I'm so glad she zoned in on that. Two people have been married for X amount of years, like
Yeah.
60 years, 70 years, right?
Mhm.
And one passes away, and the other one shortly follows behind. We see that even with pets, believe it or not. It's not
Yeah,
just
that's true.
right. It's not just also. It's that. It's not always that love. It's that always having in the interdepending
Independent. Yeah.
dependence,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
It can
Mhm.
be a dependent thing where, okay, I don't know what to do with myself anymore. I've just never existed without this
Without
person,
yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And then you give up and you let go. My thing is, and I agree with Michelle, no, that is not what God intended for
Mhm.
marriage. Oneness doesn't mean that um,
Solely depend.
you're just finished after the other person is taken away,
Right. Right.
right? Whether the reason is, if your focus is not God first,
Mhm.
it doesn't matter who's taken away, whether it's your children, your finances, your health, whatever. If your focus is not God first, heavens help you when you suffer a loss,
And the other
you
person,
suffer
right?
health crisis, you suffer financial crisis, or whatever other crisis is going on around you. Then you have a
Mhm.
bigger problem, because what you have done actually is substitute your spouse for God in that
Yes.
particular scenario that Michelle is talking about.
Yep. in
right?
direction. Yeah.
I can't live without you.
Yeah.
Oh no,
Sounds like a
I
movie.
can't live without him. That
That's
should
great.
be the focus
That
for
should be.
Mhm.
everything in our life, not
Mhm.
just relationships, right?
Mhm.
And I believe that's where we run into these issues or these problems, because sometimes we shift our focus and we
Yes.
put it. I had shifted my focus,
Mm-hmm.
and my husband became that position in my life, right? And I didn't realize that and hear the joke. I didn't realize that I
Yes.
shifted.
You didn't
I
realize
was
that.
so busy focusing on him.
So it's interesting. You can share with those that are listening, because the topic for those that are listening is why you should not get married. But if you're so focused on him, how did you get back to him?
Ah,
Yeah.
well,
What
what
caused?
the word of God says, right? Anything that you put before the Lord, he corrects that, right?
Mhm.
If you're a child of God, right? Let me, and I'll get back to I'm coming to your question, Bonito. If you're a
Okay.
child of God and your focus is not where it's supposed to be, the Holy Spirit is going to help you with that,
Mm,
right? But also you can see counseling. You've got family members, you've got people around you that can speak into your life if they see something doesn't appear to be right in that sense. You as an individual, to get to that place, you have to have an awareness.
self-aware
And I
again.
didn't have the awareness
Mm,
till later on, right? At the time when you're in it, I didn't have the awareness,
Mhm.
because if I did, I would have been able to fix it very quickly.
and
Mhm.
is it like a person's not being real at that time too? If you don't have that awareness, you're just going through the motions basically, and accepting the reality of what is now, although you're not content on the inside.
Yeah, because you're busy doing what you're supposed to do as a good wife.
It's a good,
You're
yeah,
Yes.
busy doing what you're told to do. What does a good wife do?
Yes.
You
yeah.
keep your
Yeah.
home together. You make sure everybody's okay. You
Yeah.
take care of the kids. You take care of the dog. You take care of the husband. You take care of the extended family. You take care of, and then you have to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
My
And a
Lord.
lot of times you don't get to take care of yourself. You don't even get to that point because you're too
Hello.
tired.
Until you reach the emptiness syndrome, then you say, okay, what do I do now?
Right.
Right. Yes.
It's
Yes.
funny. I've known individuals that reach that level where we talked about independence, and Michelle about interdependence. There's a little bit of that in the relationship, right? But then when it comes to the time where you do get to the emptiness syndrome, and I've had clients like that. So what do I do now, right? Because my focus has been, like you said, on everybody else. And so, yeah, take time out for yourself. That's important. Um, so you mentioned, so self-awareness came back into the picture, Ingrid, you're saying, because you're focusing, you're so dependent on the individual. So tell the audience again what caused a shift in you to realize that what you're doing actually was not serving you.
It's the individual that was dependent on me, basically, right? It was the
Yes.
individual that was really dependent on me. I was providing
Okay.
all that.
Okay.
And let's face it, if you're a husband and you're receiving all that you want,
Oh,
you're just
oh,
gonna
You gonna
soak
take
that up.
it.
What
oh,
a, what
Lord have
a
mercy. We're
loving
not,
wife, not realizing and not recognizing that her needs are not necessarily being met,
yeah.
right? Because she's not sharing that, she's not saying that, she's probably not even aware at
But
that time.
you still kind of smile on your face. You're still acting
Oh,
like
yes,
everything's normal. I just talked to someone
you
just
know,
recently,
yes,
and even in ministry, right? That you're doing everything else, but deep down on the inside, there's something that's just lacking there, right? That's
Yes.
missing.
that needs to be
Yes.
filled,
Yeah,
which is a need that's not being met, and that could be reciprocal for either the husband or for the wife, right?
yes, yes.
I'm going to go over an extra 5 minutes because I want to touch on this one about uh, talked about trauma. What should a person do? You're going through trauma, through traumatic situation, even within your life. we're talking about why you should not get married. Um, how should a person deal with that even before they even think about marriage? One of the, I hear from you folks, that one of the big things that's affecting an individual of not getting right and not getting that help is just way too much pride, right? Pride is killing them, but pride is going to kill the relationship. So I'll hear from you folks that's maybe had seen situation and dealt with situation with this trauma. This person, should not have gotten married, and they did.
If you have trauma, you need to be healed from the trauma.
Healed.
And a lot of times, what I have seen is I see people who go to therapy, have been going to therapy, still going to therapy. But my question a lot of times is, are you taking into action the items that, like are you taking the instructions that you've been given in your therapy and put it into action?
Good work,
That's
right?
one. Because it helps to talk about it. That's part of the healing process. But are you actually being healed? Have you yielded it? Well, I said that's one. That's not true. Back up. First of all, have you taken it to the Lord and have you allowed the Lord to heal
Okay.
you? Have you said, God, I relinquish, I repent, I whatever, or even if it's not something where you feel like you have to repent, you may not have to repent for the trauma, but your reaction to the trauma, because I still think there's a lesson in there that needs to be learned when you go through certain things. And in order to be healed, it's not that you take blame for it, but like forgiveness. That's the word I'm thinking about. Is
Okay.
like you need to be able to forgive those people who have offended you. And when you forgive, I'm not saying forget, but when you forgive, I believe that also helps to bring healing to your mind, your spirit, your soul, and your body. And so a lot of times what I see is I see the people who have been hurt, abused, all kind of things happen to them, and they are going and getting trauma, but I don't see that they have let it go. They haven't released it to the Lord, and they haven't released it to themselves. So they're basically surviving, but they're not thriving. They're
Right.
not living an abundant life, at least not in that area, because they haven't healed from it. So now I have this trauma. I have been rejected. I have been hurt. I've been abused. I've been taken advantage of. And in some cases, sometimes I do question, I'm not going to lie. I'll be like, Lord, how do you allow them to get involved in I've seen some people who get repeat trauma, like they were abused as a child. Then the next relationship they get in, they're abused in that relationship. They get rid of that one, all this stuff, get rid of
Right.
that. Then they're in
Wow.
the next one and they're abused again. And I'm like,
Right.
good Lord. But at the same time, if you're not been healed from it, no matter what the Lord allowed to happen in your life, if you have not let it go, you've not let God heal you in your heart so that all the bitterness, the pain, all of those things have gone away. Now, when you've gotten into a relationship where you're with a person who would never dare hurt you, you don't know how to handle it. And I've seen people literally self-sabotage. I know this one person where she was so used to being abused that when her husband did not react to things that she did, she didn't know how to handle it. Like she would literally go and put herself in scenarios and stuff so her husband would question her to see like, okay, like were you messing with somebody or what was going on? Why did you come in the house that late? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? Only to find out she was doing it because she was waiting for him to react. She was trying to make him hit her. And I'm like, what? So yeah, you really need to make sure that you're healed. Not just that you addressed it, not just that you went to therapy, but have you really received your healing?
I love that. Have you received it? Forgive. Do you forgive? You might not forget, but at the same time, somebody said, Jesus in time heal all wounds.
Yeah.
Jesus is. Ingrid, I'll give you 1 minute. We're a little bit over. If you want to come in on that, dealing with trauma.
No, yeah, I think Michelle pretty much has covered that. I think what I just add to what she's saying is, healing, we have to realize, is not just physical, especially if there's been, abuse and so forth. There's the emotional abuse, psychological.
Yeah.
Right. And when it's at that level, you may not even realize that you need to be healed because your mind is not right. You heard Michelle say her friend, she's going out of her way to do things to make her husband respond to her in a negative way. oh my goodness, that is not a well person, or
Right.
well, that's not normal behavior,
So,
right?
so, that, so that person really didn't get the help that they need in order to be still
No,
in that behavior.
right.
Mhm.
And is willing to,
Yeah,
accept it,
yeah.
take that again. Oh no,
Wow.
you know, one time for me is good enough. You don't have to tell me
Right.
again,
You have to tell me again.
right?
Well, like I said, I'm not sure if I mentioned this in one of our program. That was one of the questions my wife had asked me, as we talked about earlier. So, Bonitto, have you hit anybody? And I'm just looking at her question like, why you ask me a question like that? She goes, well, I want to know. I want to know. Have you ever hit anybody? Like, no. Why would I hit anybody? Well, it's not a matter of why you wouldn't. I just want to know if you've hit. Okay, we're good. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was a non-negotiable for my wife. If I had laid hands on anybody before,
Wow. Yes.
I don't care how handsome you look. I don't
Wow.
care how much of a body shape. I don't care how you flex your muscles. Take a walk. We're not doing this. We're not doing this because I might do something that might trigger you down the road.
Right.
I
Right.
might get those repeats, right?
Right.
So listen, ladies, I thank you for being on the program today. Good conversation is just so much more. Just even why we shouldn't get married. Folks have so much negative experience and haven't really dealt with it. If you haven't dealt with some of the trauma and the past experience and abuse that you've had in your relationship, no, you should not get married until you've actually dealt with that. Otherwise, you're projecting that on somebody else. You're setting that individual up for failure. You're setting your children up for the failure. And Lord knows how far that will go down to generations. So
Yeah.
it's really not about you. It goes really beyond you that you do not know. You're just looking at the present right now, but the enemy is after your future, not just your present, but he's after
Yes.
your future, right? So take care of the present, and the future will take care of itself. So we thank you again for those that are listening. Listen to HGG Radio, High Ground Gospel Radio Station. My name is Bonitto Grange, a relationship and life coach. Our topic was why you should not get married. So if you didn't get anything out of this, you need to just go back and listen to this again. Our program here, we had Michelle, Lady Behind the Wig. If you look her up on YouTube, Lady Behind the Wig, all in one word, you'll see a lot of her videos that's there. As many know, Chaplain England Gentle, she's one of the hosts on the program. So tune in 5:30 every Friday, Mountain Standard Time, and we will look forward to seeing you again. If you like the program, subscribe, share with a friend, with a family. You might even save a marriage. You just never know. This program is not about us. It's more than about us. And we want God to be in everything that we're doing. So thank you, Ingrid, for making the time. And also, Michelle, thank you for tuning in and making the time to share both your wisdom with us. God bless. Have a wonderful day.
Bye-bye.